he said, "Hey, Sean, I gotta hire you to sing this video game sea shanty things. Are you available for that?" And I was like, "Yeah, you say yes to everything, right?" So I was like, "Yeah, sure, Dave, no problem. Just tell me when, tell me whatever." And I said, I thought to myself, well, that's not going to change the course of my career. But especially in the pub, if something happens, if someone had a fight or someone got kicked out or someone spilled their beer, you can bet I'm going to be singing about it in the next shanty. But then there would be the drunk pass, and that was always the most fun part. Where
the drunk pass. If you've played any Assassin's Creed game that sails the high seas or enjoyed the indie smash hit Windrose, you've heard the voice of Seán Dagher. He and other singers were the shantymen of these games, providing the dulcet tones in a genre that necessarily has a lot of downtime between point A and point B. Even before Assassin's Creed 3, sea shanties were undergoing a bit of a modern resurgence, and singers like Seán Dagher would resurface and curate and edit old songs, which you can see on his YouTube channel. After the success of pirate games like Black Flag and Windrose, the modern sea shanty genre took full sail, and Seán Dagher is riding that wave. Enjoy.
I'll sing you a song of the fish in the sea. Way blow the man down, and I trust that you'll join in the chorus with me. Oh, give me some time to blow the man down. There was an old skipper, I don't know his name. Way blow the man down, but I know that he played him a very smart game. Oh, give me some time to blow the man down.
What do you think makes a good sea shanty?
it's for doing work. So if it makes the work happen efficiently, then it's a good shanty. But, lately, not too many people are using shanties for work, so then it's entertainment. I think what makes a good shanty is one that is easy to learn, that the people, because your audience is also your crew. You want people to sing with you, or else what's the point? So something that people can sort of learn quickly. I don't mean teach them, hey, this is the song, this is how it goes. I mean, you start singing the song, and they're able to join in. They hear the first verse, second verse, they're joining in the refrains. Third verse, they're belting their guts out. So a song like that is a good shanty.
And then there's kind of like a shanty leader, isn't there, that sings the rest of it?
Yeah, that's right. That's the form. It's call and response. There's a shantyman and crew responses. So the shantyman has to know the song, obviously, but the crew can pick it up on the fly, and that's the beauty of it. It leads to communal singing without people having to sort of get stressed or feel like that they have to be a good singer. It's a community activity, and I think singing together is one of the best ones.
You mentioned that in the modern day, people don't really use it as a work song so much, but it's kind of, one thing I was wondering about was why it seems to resonate so much in the modern day, especially among people who don't live a sailing lifestyle. They don't spend their time battening down hatches or anything, but maybe it sort of, I don't know, brings something up in us from a previous time or a previous kind of lifestyle. What do you think it is about it that resonates with people?
Yeah, I think it's all of that. I think it's the exoticism. It's the reminiscing about an imagined past. But it's also romantic. The idea of like heading off on a ship. Like even this cabin I'm in has a Windrose. It's sort of evoking. It's evoking travel, evoking seafaring, and I think that's part of the appeal of nautical songs. It's like when someone says, "Oh, we're road trip," woot, woot. Like it's like we're just going somewhere is exciting. Thinking about being somewhere else is exciting. So I mean, that's escapism. There's also something else in the songs. There's a lot of irreverence. There's a lot of sort of sticking it to the boss, and I think that's appealing as well.
Yeah, I guess if I've had times in my life where I've been working 9 to 5 and had a lot of commitments, and the idea seemed very appealing to just, take a little sailing trip over to Greece or something.
Absolutely.
How did you find your way into sea shanties in general? Was it straight to sea shanties, or did you just know that you wanted to be a singer and a musician first, or what was your path there?
Yeah, I always wanted to be a musician, and then I ended up singing in Irish pubs, from about the age of 20, 21. That's been my full-time job, more or less, for the last 30 some years. And in a lot of those Irish pub songs, there are some responses that people have to sing, and the songs with the responses are hits, and you save them for the for the end of the set, or for an important moment in the set, or you use those call and response songs as tools, and the other songs are kind of fillers in between. Not that they're not good, but they have other purposes. And so when I sort of came across sea shanties more and more, it's like, well, hang on, here's a repertoire of some 400 songs that all are call and response songs, therefore all are potentially hits. So I was doing more and more of them in my sort of pub sets, and then when I got hired for AC3, that's when we had to do a bunch of shanties, and then the shanties in AC3 were popular, so they really integrated them into AC4, Black Flag, and that's when I really had to learn a lot more songs.
Oh, so it goes all the way back to Assassin's Creed 3. Is that the one that was in America?
That was the American Revolution one, yeah. And we the guys that I was singing with, we sang as American soldiers, British soldiers. We were the tavern musicians as well. We sang and played in the taverns. And there was just a sidebar of, heading out in a ship, and I think we sang half a dozen. I think it was 6 shanties for that, and people just loved that so much that away we went.
Are there different shanties that are sung on a American and British warship as opposed to a pirate ship?
The British Army the navies tended not to allow shanties. The navies would have they would have fiddlers, or I think fiddlers, to keep the time, to keep the sailors pulling in time. So it was really pirates and sort of merchant marine that had shanties. And now, as for if the question is about British versus American, as I alluded to before, there are no countries at sea. They're just the languages of the crew. And once a song puts to sea, it's not from anywhere. It's just it's from everywhere. So it's often hard to tell where the songs are from. Many of the songs have African American roots. Have a lot of black crews. And those shanties, which came from West African work songs, I'm probably saying some stuff that's not true, and it's the spirit of what I'm saying that's true, not the details. So if anyone wants to correct me, please do. But the work song culture came from, or a lot of the songs came from that culture, I should say, and then got taken up by crews from everywhere, and the form got spread. So no, strictly speaking, there's no difference between, say, an English song or an American song, although sometimes you can tell that this song, developed out of an Irish or Scottish folk song, whereas this song developed out of a Southern American work song.
Wow, that's fascinating. And so you're saying that a number of them actually came out of West Africa?
Well, they not the song specifically, but the style of call and response work songs is still prevalent it still exists in West Africa. And when people got brought over to the United States, to work as slaves, they brought that song culture with them, and it's not very different from the style of songs that that we call shanties. And Mobile, Alabama was a huge port, and lots of songs sort of came out of there. Lots of crews worked out of there, black and white, and I think that work song tradition is, I'm not saying it that it's solely responsible for the style of shanties we have now, but I think it certainly contributed.
I saw a little bit of what you're talking about with the singing in a pub and getting the call and response going and getting the crowd into it and stuff like that. It's something that I haven't experienced in real life, but it seems a lot of fun. What's that like for you, trying to lead a pub crowd, and like what's the unseen side of that? Like, what is that lifestyle like?
So when it's a group of people who are gathered in a pub to sing, or because they've signed up for this experience, that's pretty easy. You just sort of, you start a song and everyone's there to sing. So you make sure you start something good that they can join in on, and that's cool. When it's a hostile crowd, like when you're just doing a pub gig and just people are there just to have a beer or chat with friends, or are on a date or something, that's a whole different skill, and it's a different job, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes you get people into it and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't want to get people into it. Sometimes you see that the crowd, everyone's just sort of happy doing their thing and they just want background music, and so you do background music. And sometimes people are there and they want a show, so you put on a show. And I like both of those things. What's difficult in a pub situation like that is when most of the people want a show and a couple of people, or one loud table just wants to carouse. That's difficult to manage, and it takes some doing. You can either sort of beat the loud people into submission and sort of embarrass them on board with you, or usually what you do there is you take down the leader, and you find the loudest jackass and make fun of him and get everyone laughing at him, and then you've got them for a while. They'll sing for a while, and they'll pay attention for a bit. But that's a sort of tavern job, and you expect that, and that's part of what I like about it, is that it's not guaranteed. So when you have a magic moment, it can be 15 minutes, can be an hour, or it can be a whole evening. When you have a magic time, it's part of the magic is that it's not guaranteed, But that's different from, like I said, a pub sing or a show.
Yeah, well, it sounds almost like stand-up comedy or something, where it's like you don't know what kind of crowd you're going to get. Sometimes you have to battle the crowd a little bit.
Well, yeah, except in stand-up comedy, people have bought a ticket to come to your show.
True, yeah.
Sometimes in the pubs, and I'm doing less and less of the pubs these days, but just because I'm not available. But sometimes in the pubs, people come in and they sort of realize, like, oh, there's music here, and leave, which is great. If you don't want music, get out, or go to another room. Stand-up comedy is like, imagine like getting up on the bus or something and starting to do stand-up, and people on the bus going, "What is this guy doing?" And it's that kind of not necessarily hostile crowd, but that kind of unexpecting crowd.
Help me, Bob, I'm bully in the alley, way, bully in the alley. Help me, Bob, I'm bully in the alley, bully down in Shinbo now. There was Sally that I loved so dearly, way, bully in the alley. Sally got well nigh almost nearly, bully down in Shinbo now. So help me, Bob, I'm bully in the alley, way, bully in the alley. Help me, Bob, I'm bully in the alley, bully down in Shinbo now. If I ever get back, I'll marry little Sally, way, bully bully in the alley. Have 6 kids and live in Shinbone Alley, bully down in Shinbone Alley. So help me, Bob, I'm bully in the alley. Way, bully in the alley. Help me, Bob, I'm bully in the alley, bully down in Shinbone Alley.
Assassin's Creed 3, the Revolutionary War, how does that come about?
Yeah, so that was 2012. I hadn't done any YouTube videos yet, of that stuff or much of anything, really. I was playing in this pub in Montreal, Hurley's, and Ubisoft has an office in Montreal. And one of the guys I play with, a flute player called Dave Gossage, great virtuosic master of everything, and also, he's a prolific, he's a jazz player and film composer. He teaches at the McGill Music Department in the jazz department. McGill University is the big university in Montreal with a great music program. And they, someone who worked at Ubisoft as a music supervisor had gone to McGill and knew that he did Celtic music among the things he did. And so he got hired to produce a lot of the music for AC3. And, one night we're playing in the pub, 2012, July or August, and he said to me, he said, "Hey, Seán, I gotta hire you to sing this video game sea shanty things, are you available for that?" And I was like, "Yeah, you say yes to everything, right?" So I was like, "Yeah, sure, Dave, no problem. Just tell me when, tell me whatever." And I said, I thought to myself, well, that's not going to change the course of my career. But a lot of the guys singing were more suited to singing pop and or country or rock. I think he thought I sounded more sort of mid folk, vaguely Celtic-y.
So it started out as like folk and Celtic influence stuff, and then did it move more into sea shanties? And was there a reason for that, or?
No, the AC3. Yeah, look, I don't know. They just gave us. They said they told us what songs to sing, and we sang them. And like I said, it was for the purposes. We did those American war songs, the British troops songs, tavern songs, and the shanties. And I think Dave, chose and curated the repertoire for that. Well, for all of the games actually that we did, it was Dave who did the choosing and some of the cleaning up of the lyrics and stuff like that. So, yeah, they are sort of with the Assassin's Creed series, they're making a nod to historicity, even if they don't always. Everything isn't always purely 100% historical. They point in that direction. So they thought, okay, what were these guys singing on the ships in the 18th century?
Right. Yeah. The lyrics are a little bit sanitized, right? They scrubbed some of the, I guess, problematic elements.
Yeah, they're just words you don't want to be saying these days,
Yeah,
and that's okay. The nice thing about shanties is that it's a lot of it is improvised. Even in the day, there would be, in most songs, there would be a few verses that you'd sing off the top that generally they would sing every time. And then it was the shantyman's job to sort of make up verses as he went along, to keep the crew entertained. So either you'd talk about, what some guy had done on shore the other day, or you'd talk about what a jerk the captain had been the other day. And that's the job. And it's to entertain the people doing the work and make the time go more quickly for them, keep them focused and energized. So people are making up lyrics all the time. So it's completely fine for us in the modern day to be altering, inventing new verses, singing verses that we're comfortable singing with in this day and age. That has always happened, and it's not a breach of tradition or anything like that. I wouldn't even call it sanitizing. I'd say it's just a living tradition.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's just always being updated, and it sounds like you got to be thinking on your feet a little bit. I noticed there was a little bit of that in some of the songs I came across. Like there was a little bit of, I just noticed the captain said we'll be belaying soon. And so, get ready for that. And I was like, oh, so if you were the shanty man or the shanty leader, you would have to be, it's almost like freestyle rap or like freestyle singing or something like that.
Yeah, correct. You have to be in the moment. And, in practice, when I'm singing these songs, often I'll sing the same verses, especially if it tells a good story, I'll sing those verses. But especially in the pub, if something happens, if someone had a fight or someone got kicked out or someone spilled their beer, you can bet I'm going to be singing about it in the next shanty.
Love it. You mentioned that it changed the course of your career. Do you think it changed the course of sea shanties as well? Because, for me, like I never would have thought to search for sea shanties online. I absolutely came at it through video games. I was playing Windrose and I liked the game, but I eventually figured out the thing that I liked most about the game was the music. And then I started listening to the music outside of the game. Do you think that video games are the strongest discovery vector for sea shanties?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. In 2013 or whatever it was, when Black Flag came out, like all these young people, gamers and young and old, were being introduced to this music, and not in a sort of academic scholarly way, just like, oh, the boat's moving, so there's this singing happening, and people just got to experience it in its natural environment, which I think is really cool. And I was shocked, when this sort of niche style all of a sudden hit the mainstream. I couldn't believe it. But I understood why. People were, it was presented well, and people were given a fair opportunity to appreciate it on its merits. And so when the Wellerman craze happened in 2021, when that video went viral and the song and everything, I wasn't surprised. That was 8 years later, and I was like, yeah, this happens from time to time, and that's just what's going to happen, and that's cool. So
I'm unfamiliar with the Wellerman. Was that like a viral moment? What happened there?
Yeah, January 2021. It's a New Zealand whaling song, actually. It's not strictly speaking a shanty, but a Scottish postman, Nathan Evans, did a video of it, and it blew up on TikTok and all over in January 2021, and all of a sudden shanties were just everywhere. And the duetting feature of TikTok made it be that people sort of could join in with Nathan Evans, with everyone. And everyone was playing the song. It was on Stephen Colbert. There were versions of it. The Trailer Park Boys did versions of it. There are videos of Bernie Sanders with his mittens, singing the Wellerman, and it was everywhere for months. And I had started doing the Shanty of the Week, during COVID, maybe 5 months before that in September, and 4 months before in September, and all of a sudden my numbers went ballistic. People were coming to see my stuff, and the Longest Johns, who had done the version that he was copying, their online stuff went crazy because they were already doing great online content. They've kind of stayed in the public eye since then. And that song, the Wellerman, I've toured around the States a bunch, and I've done a bunch of school shows for kids, and all the elementary school kids know the verses to that song. They know all 6 verses. They sing along start to finish in almost every school. So it's really sort of entered the popular connaissance. What's the word? Anyway, the zeitgeist, the moment. Everyone knows it.
There once was a ship that put to sea, and the name of the ship was the Billy of Tea. The winds came up and her bow dipped down. Oh, blow me, bully boys, blow. Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. She had not been 2 weeks from shore when down on her right whale bore the captain cried all hands and swore he'd take that whale in tow. Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go.
How did the experience differ working with the Windrose team as opposed to working with one of the biggest publishers in Ubisoft?
So with Ubisoft, I've almost always been sort of arm's length. Like I did all the Assassin's Creed stuff. I've been hired by Dave to do, Dave Gossage, who I mentioned before. I've been hired by Dave to sing, and sometimes I would help with compiling versions, but I didn't really have direct contact with Skull and Bones. I did a bunch of songs for Skull and Bones, and that was more direct, and I dealt with teams in Paris and Indonesia, and so that was more direct. But it was only a couple of people that I was dealing with. And the other aspect of Ubisoft, before I get to Windrose, is that for this Resynced, I was contacted to compose songs. So I did that as well. Now for Windrose, I was contacted initially on Instagram in December, like quite recently, and then they said, "Can we?" I didn't know if it was real or not. It was someone with a Chinese name saying, "Hey, we want to do, contact you about a video game," and sometimes I get messages like that, and it turned out not to be real, but I said, "Okay, write to me on WhatsApp." And so they wrote to me on WhatsApp, and then I said, okay, eventually they said, "Okay, can we start a Discord chat?" Okay. So basically all of my dealings with them have been on Discord, and it feels pretty intimate. And, so I'm chatting at the same time with the composer and the business people and the marketing people. They're all in the same chat, and we're sort of, it's convivial. I like it a lot. And, on the other hand, the composer was, who, by the way, is great. His orchestral stuff is amazing. Sava Duden is his name. And he sent me the songs, and he had the vocal arrangements already worked out. So whereas with Ubisoft, it's been a lot of sort of loose, sort of make up your parts, holler, do kind of loose stuff, whereas this was more sort of these are the voices I want, so I sang the voices, and so it was a different process altogether. And you can hear it's a different result. There's similarities and there's overlap, but it's they were aiming for different things and they got them.
Did they similarly choose which songs to put into Windrose, or did they leave that a bit open?
No. When they spoke to me, they had 10 songs chosen, and they sent me the vocal arrangements, and it was done like that, and that was cool. It was a different way of working, but I enjoyed the process very much. And I'm happy with the result too. I'm especially happy with, how the songs sound in the game is great, but the trailers, where he took sort of
yes.
He took elements of what I'd sung and put them in these crazy orchestrations, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is epic!" And I had to re-record some of the stuff because there was one of the songs where in the trailer he had done sort of a thing where the voice kind of gradually slowed down and got more sort of grandiose. So I had to record that section and send it to him, And this is all happening, like, it felt indie because it's all happening, in the weeks before the game came out. They're like, "Okay, the game's coming out." When did it come out? In April or something? They're like, in March, they're like, "Oh, they're like, we need to have this trailer out by next week. Can you get into a studio and record this, these 10 bars with 20 voices of that?" I'm like, "Okay." And I was on tour in England at the time. I was like, "Okay, I'll find a studio around here somewhere." And so it was, it wasn't like seat of the pants, but it was certainly like, I felt like, okay, this is a smaller operation that sort of it's adapting to changing environment and the times, and we're just going for it. And I loved that about it too. It's like, okay, I felt like I was in it with them, like we were sort of a team working on it together. So that was super fun.
Those trailers are fantastic. I think they had like 2 or 3 fantastic trailers that really leaned heavily into the sea shanties, but also had just really good video editing.
I loved the video, and like I said, the orchestration that Sava did, just great,
Was it more on the Ubisoft side that they wanted you to deliberately sing more imperfectly, or was that on both sides where it was like there must be the temptation to sing with perfect harmonies and things like that, but they had to keep reminding you like, hey, you're drunken sailors, like
Yeah, Ubisoft was definitely more like that. They wanted us to have it be less polished. But even with Ubisoft, like from the beginning, the process was there would always be 3 of us. Most often there'd be 3 of us in the studio. So whoever's singing, and we take turns singing the leads, and whoever's singing the lead is in the middle, and the 2 other guys are on either side. And you keep doing takes of the song until you get one where the lead, whoever did the lead, got all the words correctly and sang it well enough. Then you'd go back over, and we would change places, and you'd add crew responses. So in the first take where the guy's singing lead, the other 2 guys are singing the crew responses. And then you go back over and you do another pass where you have all 3 of you singing crew responses. So now your crew is 5 people. And then another one, now your crew is 8 people. Sorry, just bang the mic. So we'd build it like that. So now you got a crew of 8 plus the shanty man. Now they'd say, okay, everyone sing as low as you can. So we'd go as low as you can. Right? Okay, now everyone sing as high as you can. You could do a bit of harmony, but not too much, and we'd sing those harmony. So you have a base of 8 people, and then like add on things, 3 low guys, 3 high guys. So now we're at 14. And then we would do, and sometimes it'd be more. Sometimes you get up to, 17, 20. But then there would be the drunk pass, and that was always the most fun part. Where
the drunk pass,
yeah, which you had to sing as badly, sing, and sometimes they'd stop us, like, guys, dial it back. What you're doing sounds really drunk, but we can't use that. Just like, so we'd find the right amount of drunkenness, and either separately or in the drunk pass, there'd also be the hollering, like "Hey boys" and stuff like that. And so they would sort of mix those all together and come up with the Ubisoft sound of the shanties. And, some songs they would lean more on the clean stuff, and some songs they'd lean more on the messy, drunken and hollering. So with Windrose, I did sing the voices that were laid out for me, but I also did some of the not really drunk pass, but the hollering passes, like the hooting and sort of chirping along. I did some of that.
I love that. I love the idea of a drunk pass. I noticed in Windrose, that there was some they had kind of programmed in these stops to it as well, like if you enter combat or if you quickly jump off the boat or something like that, someone's going to yell like, "That's enough," or "Quiet down."
Yeah, that was me as well. They they wrote to me they said, "Oh, we need you to do all these phrases." So I'm not sure if I'm supposed to not give away the mechanics of how this stuff works, but whatever. They sent me it was a page and a half of phrases, like stuff like that, like you just said. And I would, I went into the studio, set up a mic, and I said they wanted each one 4 times so that it's not always the same in the game. And they wanted 4 times of like super hollering and 4 times of medium hollering. They said at first they said loud and normal, but eventually they came back and they said, actually, the normal one was too normal. Can you be like, can one be like 8 out of 10 and the other one be 12 out of 10 instead of being 5? So that's what I did of all the phrases, and there were a bunch of combat phrases too, and it was the same thing. So you have this page in front of you, and you're just like, saying it over and over, and like captain at the wheel, stuff like that. And so those were used for various things in the game.
Yeah, it's the little touches sometimes that make it feel like a real lived-in world. So, there's not like 20 men who just robotically, psychically know when to stop singing. With Resynced, you were composing some original material. Can you talk about that process a little bit? Because I guess it has to be like time period appropriate, sort of writing new material, but also studying old language a little bit, making sure it's of the time.
I don't want to say that it's like pseudo archaic, but sounding old is more important than being old. For that, in terms of the language and the vocabulary. So I would just send them versions of the texts, and they would sort of send me back and say, like, change this word, or we don't think that word fits in the context of what we're trying to do, and so I would change the word. But that process actually started with Skull and Bones. They wanted me to collect songs from the Indian Ocean, French and English, Indonesian, Malagasy, and Swahili. So I tried, and I found songs, but in the end, I ended up doing the shanty process on folk music from those places. So I couldn't find dedicated work songs, for instance, in Malagasy. So I went through a bunch of Malagasy folk songs, and I took elements of folk music and I put them into a shanty structure, like call and response. So for instance, I can't remember the songs or any of the melodies right now, but I would take a Malagasy folk song that I found, and I would take one of the phrases and make it, the first response, take another phrase and make it the second response. And then I would take other phrases and make them the shantyman lines. So it's, I ended up constructing shanties the way I described the English language ones having been constructed. I did that same process artificially. And then I started with Google Translate, actually, with all those languages, and I took phrases, stock phrases like "the captain's a jerk," or "I hate this boat," or "I miss my girl back home," and I put them into the languages I talked about: Malagasy, Swahili, and Indonesian. And then obviously I got native language speakers to sing the lead parts, and so they checked the language, and also Ubisoft offices in Indonesia, they checked the languages as well. So I had so I started out making the songs like that for Skull and Bones the first season. But I also did the other process which I talked about, where the songs got translated. So I would take an English song, and in some of them I would translate the shantyman lines into one of the other languages, but leave the crew responses in English. What's the good one like that? Shallow Brown, with this beautiful Swahili singer, Swahili language singer singing in Swahili, and then the responses are just Shallow Brown in English. Or I would have the whole thing translated into the target language.
Bound away to leave her, shallow, shallow brown, bound away to leave her. Shallow, oh shallow brown, shipped on board a whaler. Shallow, oh shallow brown, shipped on board a whaler. Shallow, oh shallow brown, you are my only treasure. Shallow, oh shallow brown, love you to full measure. Shallow, oh shallow brown, well my Juliana. Shallow, oh shallow brown, farewell my Juliana. Shallow, oh shallow brown, shallow, oh shallow brown.
So that was the process for Skull and Bones the first season. And then in the second season, they started sending me briefs. Okay, this song is about a magical dragon, and the song needs to be in Mandarin, and so they would talk about elements in the game, and they really gave me a full brief of what the song was about. This song was about the Sea Lords, these sort of pirate lords or whatever, and really detailed. And they told me what kind of mood they wanted, what the context in the game was, what the level of languages they wanted. This one is to be rude or polite or reverential or something. And again, they would come back and they'd say, well, this using this word doesn't sound as badass as we needed it. So, the 4 songs that I wrote for Resynced sort of carried on in that tradition. They would send me a brief, Blackbeard's beard. Here's a song about Blackbeard's beard, how everyone was scared of him, scared of it, the myth he created. They gave me some points, like the part about him turning down the pardon from the king. So I would sort of use standard shanty form, call and response, sometimes with the chorus. And I would take elements from the brief they had given me or from my own research and compile a song that sounded and felt like a traditional shanty.
It sounds like it would have been quite fulfilling.
It was fun. And, writing to a brief is liberating. People say like, oh, you feel constrained. Like, no, it's like they're giving me these great ideas and I have to flesh out the ideas, and having feedback and guidance and people saying, we want more of this direction. It's much easier. And, like you say, it is fulfilling to come up with things. And then, that song, Blackbeard's Beard, when I listen to it now, and I'm like, yeah, I think I succeeded in making something that could sound like it was a traditional song, but I wrote it like a year ago.
I read about sometimes when you would find a song and there would be something like upwards of 100 different verses in total that you would find. And of course you need to choose which ones to include. So your role is kind of also a little bit like curator, selector, and almost scholar a little bit. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, scholar is a big word for what I'm doing. I'm sort of finding different versions, usually online, other people's recordings. It is curating. It's curating. Part of the, when I was doing the Shanty of the Week, part of the challenge was making sure that, the challenge I set for myself was keeping it all public domain. I didn't, if I suspected that so-and-so had written a verse or something, I would leave it out. I wanted either something that I had written or something that anonymous had written.
It struck me that you might occasionally come across the written word, but maybe the tune itself or the notes, the musical notes, are kind of lost to time. Do you ever have like challenges in recreating that side of it?
For the shanties, no, because the collectors that started sort of in the late 19th century, Joanna Colcord, R.R. Terry, Stan Hugel, all notated the melodies. Their collections sort of form not the canon, but a canon of songs. But it would just be a fun challenge anyway. You'd sort of say, well, okay, let's see what comes out of my mouth when I try to sing these lyrics that I don't have a melody for. And I've done that with other works, poetry. There's an album I did called Trobairets of 12th and 13th century poems written by women in the south of France in Old Occitan. Troubadours were the court poets of that time, south of France, 12th, 13th century, writing various forms of poetry. And there were female equivalents called trobairets, and it was a sort of culturally free time in Europe. One of the first times in Western Europe that women were free to sort of write about politics and religion and sex and culture, and they did. And there are about 25 of these poems that we still have, but only one of them has a melody that we know about. So I took 8 of them and I wrote melodies to it, and it was a super fun challenge. So, I've done that sort of thing before, and I love it.
That's super interesting. Can we find that anywhere? Is that do you have that online anywhere?
It's on Spotify and streaming platforms. Trobairets, it's Trobaitz. and the group is LANEF, LA space NEF.
You keep on saying you're not a scholar or a historian, but I have my doubts, Sean. It's sounding like you do a little bit of that stuff.
Well, I mean, I do it in a surface kind of way, like I look into this stuff, but if when it comes, I'm not academically rigorous. I'll just find what I need to find for the purposes of the music I want to make, and I'll stop at that.
Sure, yeah. You do things that look suspiciously close to scholarship at times.
It's a damn tough life full of toil and strife we waitermen undergo. And we don't give a damn when the gale is done, how hard the winds did blow. For we're homeward bound from the Arctic ground, with a good ship taut and free. And we don't give a damn when we drink our rum with the girls of old Maui. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, rolling down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic ground, rolling down to old Maui.
I have a little quiz that I want to give you to test your scholarly knowledge, which is really more so just for my benefit, because when I listen to some of the sea shanties, I don't know what some of the terms mean. So if I could ask you about a few of them, I'm sure you get asked these a million times.
Well, hang on. Before you go, I just want to say, I'm not a scholar, and I'm also not a sailor. And when I was doing the Shanty of the Week, I looked up a lot of these terms, the sort of video overlays in a lot of the Shanty of the Weeks. It's because when I was doing the video editing, I realized, actually, what does that mean? So I would look it up and I'd put it on the screen for the benefit of whoever was listening, but also for my own benefit. So, and that was a while ago now, Shanty of the Week, 5 years ago. So, some of these things I looked up and have since re-forgotten. So I'll try my best, but no guarantees.
I noticed that is one thing I wanted to ask, is if you had done any sailing, because I noticed on the YouTube videos, it would describe the belaying means this and other things.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, those things were filling in gaps in my knowledge.
Yeah, I wouldn't know my starboard from my port, but now after watching your videos, I know what a baggy sail is, which is a kind of played out useless sail because it's been overly used. So probably the one that you get asked the most, what does it mean to blow the man down?
Yes. I don't know. There's a lot of, my guess is just the wind actually blowing him over, or a lot of these terms, a lot of this, because the songs are for work, you want people to do something with great vigor. And I think the ones that stuck around are the ones that sound vigorous. Blow the man down. There's a blow in general, blow me boys, I long to hear you. I don't know. I'm exposed here as the fraud I am.
It's a mystery. From the same song, and I guess lots of different versions of the shanty, because a lot of the verses are interchangeable, and there's so many different ones. But one of the verses that you had in the Windrose version mentioned a flash packet, and I was wondering what a flash packet is.
So a packet is a ship that's on a regularly scheduled trajectory, rather than what's the word? Rather than a charter. And it got the name packet because those were the mail. The mail was delivered on packet ships, right? Packets were delivered on packet ships, and then it eventually got transferred to the ship being the packet. So, in Lowlands Low, it says, "Our packet ship is the island lass." That's that. And a flash, I just imagine, means good, flashy, good, well presented, fast.
The next two come from the same Shanty. Bully in the alley. What does it mean to be bully in the
Yes.
alley?
I think bully means stranded in some distress. So you're either
Right.
you're drunk and you've fallen down, and you're stuck and you're calling out for help.
Shouldn't have done that last drunken pass.
Yeah.
Help me, Bob. I'm bully in the alley. So who is Bob?
God. It's
Oh.
yeah, like they have in French the term sacre bleu, they substitute bleu for Dieu, which means God, because it sounds similar, and it's the same phenomenon in English. It's saying Bob instead of saying help me God.
The last one I had was, and this is deliberately a tricky one, but Rolling Kings from the Shanty, South Australia. What does Rolling Kings mean?
So rolling is sailing. Any sort of traveling. Rolling home to old Maui is sailing. And I think this is not something I've looked at, but I think it's a reference to the sort of rolling up and down. Oh yeah, right. There's pitch and roll and yaw in a boat and in a plane, and I think that's where the rolling comes as a term for sailing. Going sort of up and down. And if I got pitch and yaw and roll wrong, then. But I think roll is the going sort of forward and back as you go over the waves. And kings is just kings they're referring to themselves as kings because as sort of bigging themselves up as grandiose sailors that they aren't.
The Leonardo DiCaprio's before Titanic, the kings of the world, the kings of the sea.
There you go. Love it.
Well, yeah, that's all the ones that I had. Thank you for clearing those up. If you didn't know, folks, you can pray and you can just say hi to Bob. That's
it's rare. It's a rare instance of sailors, using euphemism. They were usually pretty direct.
Yeah, I mean, I figured like when there's lots of mentions of Sally, I figured that was just kind of like a catch-all term for your sweetheart that you had back home.
Yeah, that's it. And in the same vein, John or Johnny just means sailor.
Thanks so much for spending the time and giving us an insight into your adventure with sea shanties and the whole Venn diagram, the slowly converging Venn diagram of video games and sea shanties.
Well, thanks for taking an interest, and it's nice talking to you.
Absolutely, Seán. Before we go, where can people find you? What do you have going on? How can people support you?
Yes, thanks for asking. I have a Patreon page, but I haven't been doing any of the things I'm supposed to have been doing. But people can still support me if they want. They can find all my music on all the streaming platforms. The Shanty of the Week videos are still up on YouTube and are there for the listening. And I usually put on Songkick the live shows I'm doing, but for the solo stuff, or with Sky Consort and Emma Bjorling on that website. So that's Lenef. I'm doing shows with Lenef, but mostly in Montreal, not touring with that stuff. That's where people can find me. And if anyone from who's seen me here comes to a show I'm at, we'll come and say hi. I'd love to say hi.
Any tours down to Australia soon?
Oh man, the longest John's asked me to come to Australia in next year, and it was just too short notice. I'm not available.
Fair enough. I'm only mildly offended and scandalized. Thanks so much, Seán.
Have a good day, everybody.